beautiful people. Happy Monday. Woohoo. Off to start another fun work week, right? And as long as I'm still working from home, you're still getting the fun time of hanging out with me and doing daily readings. And who knows? Maybe we'll do daily readings when I'm home beyond this. Can you see how indecisive I am? Anyway, it's already June 8th, and today's reading is pretty fabulous. And I'm chuckling because before I record now in the morning, I've been writing, and I was just writing about this topic. So I thought it was interesting that I came in and the reading is about this. So without further ado, our quote is from Kathy Bowman. Sometimes we look for signs of God's presence in our lives, but miss them because they're not what we thought they'd be. The young man was heartbroken. His fiancée had called off the wedding and left him for another man. How could God let this happen, he asked. The young man was convinced God did not care about him. Years later, as he celebrated his 10th wedding anniversary, he told his wife he was grateful to God for their marriage. Now he knew that when the first fiancée left him, it was for the good. At the time, he could not see it. We all have moments in life when we lose something, a boyfriend or girlfriend, a job or a chance for a job, or something else that seems very important at the time, and feel God has deserted us. Sometimes we may feel that being an alcoholic or addict is a sign that God has deserted us. Yeah, they said that twice in the same sentence. I don't like that. And feel God has deserted us. Sometimes we may feel that being an alcoholic or addict is a sign that God deserted us. Okay, they're proving a point. I get it. After being in a 12-step program for a number of years, do we realize that life now is better than it was before the illness of addiction set in. We appreciate our loved ones and ourselves more than ever. Our priorities have changed, and we have a relationship with a higher power that didn't exist before. And now, every day, we gain a new perspective and insight on how God is working to enrich our lives. Today, help me to remember that you are always with me. You guys have heard me talk about this topic before, and I think the reason I get so passionate about it is because it's so different than how I used to view things. So I love having my new perspective that I gained. I don't know. I can pinpoint gaining it, starting to see it 3 years ago. And that was what I was just writing about, was the point in life when I was interviewing for this job to come back, and I had a cruise booked and was going to rehab and didn't have but a day in between the two events to fly from Kansas City to New York and back to Kansas City to drive to Minnesota and go in and know that I don't have access to phones and computers like I would if I didn't go to treatment, and just have to believe that if I was supposed to get the job, I would get the job and it would work out whether I was in treatment or not. And that's essentially what happened. Was I navigated it, and I was supposed to be here in New York. Just like the timing of when I went to treatment, I believe I was supposed to, meet the people I met and be on the journey with those who I've been on the journey with. That's what I believe. And I also believe that if I didn't go back out after, being bet free, I think for 24, 26, 28 months, whatever it was before the first time, I wouldn't have went to treatment. I wouldn't have come back to New York, at least on this timeline, in this mentality. I wouldn't have gotten to know the Center for Problem Gambling. I wouldn't have the people in my life that I currently have. I wouldn't be on this podcast talking to you. I wouldn't be so many things if the plan didn't work out the way the plan was supposed to. And I'm so grateful for this because it puts me in a position now to really show up for the world and have a little bit more insight to the things that I want to help people with. It would be very hard to have a conversation with someone about going to treatment if I never been to treatment before, or to tell someone about GA if I had never been to GA, those kinds of things. So those were all gifts. And as I shared with you, like I'm going into what I'm calling part 2 of life. Like, first chapter will be over soon enough. This is my transitional year. And I don't mean that in a, like, I'm going to forget everything that's happened, but I'm not going to dwell on what's happened. And I'm going to focus just on moving forward and positive stuff. Everything that has happened in my life, though, up until this point, has a reason. And that's what the reading was kind of trying to capture. And I know we've talked about this before because it always reminds me of Garth Brooks's song Unanswered Prayers. And I think because I had heard that song in the 90s whenever it first came out, and once I understood it, I used to apply that when things wouldn't go my way. I'd be like, okay, well, maybe it's unanswered prayers. But it really didn't start kicking into my life and get it to the level. I don't know. I just have so much faith in this, that everything does work out the way it's supposed to work out. And I'm just excited about the future. And, you know, there's a reason I didn't become a vice president in grocery. I would have been a workaholic. I would have only impacted, even though I might have impacted, you know, the 130 stores here, or maybe even if I, you know, my career took a different way and I got to bigger chains and stuff. How we go to business to sell flowers is not as serious or life and death or critical as helping people in addiction. It's just not the same. And I'm blessed that I've been given tools to help people and hopefully set a good example and show them what beautiful life beyond the bet and beyond the drink looks like. And beyond the cigarette too. Hey guys, it's been 3 weeks. 3 whole full weeks without any I didn't want to sound disgusting. I was going to say without any like round little things in my mouth. Cause I've only been vaping and very infrequently, but, yeah, no cigarettes since March and no cigars in 3 weeks. And the cigars weren't even an everyday thing, but it's still good they're gone. So yay. And that was supposed to happen when that was supposed to happen. And part of me wonders if I was supposed to be transitioning away right now as I'm doing the buddy system with my friend who is on day 8, which I am so proud of him. But having my urges and my thoughts about cigarettes are really keeping me dialed into what he might be feeling with, you know, being on his 8th day away from his stuff, and also in the alcohol room I'm in where, you know, there's people in our group made it to day 11, make it to 5 months. Like there's different variables, but those who are, you know, back on day 1 or day 5 or whatever, this is keeping it very relatable because I don't really have alcohol urges. I think about it sometimes, and it's usually when stress comes. It's the way my brain is programmed from all those years of, okay, stress, let me pour a drink. Stress, let me go place a bet. Stress, let me light up a cigarette. You know, right? That's what all of those things did. And, yeah, I guess now I have found different ways and still trying to be relatable to all those different buckets, the gambler, the alcoholic, you know, and anybody else who may need to be related to. So it's a good reminder. It's a good reminder. And it's been work. I will be honest, because there's there's been a couple days that if Cumberland's had them, I don't know if I would have been as good. And going back to the message today, the universe did not want me having them. So they were out of stock. And I could have stopped at different stores or whatever, but just being out of stock was enough of a moment that I knew I wasn't supposed to be smoking. And you should see me driving down the road talking to myself. Okay, thank you, universe. You didn't have them. All right, I'm not supposed to smoke. I get it. Probably look a little cray-cray, but I'm okay with that. So essentially, if you don't get what you want when you want, it may be because that's the way it's supposed to be. I think that's what the reading said today. And it's not always easy to believe that. And as people in addiction who like instant gratification, it might make us angry or frustrated. And that's why I advocate, not necessarily for God if that's not what you're comfortable with, but having faith that it does work out the way it helps us deal with those speed bumps that we don't like happening the way they happen because they're not on our terms, because we can't control them. And that's just the way I see it. It's worked out that way for me. I'm grateful. Like there's times, I think I've used this example with you guys. If, you have a flat tire, and yeah, that sucks, but maybe you weren't supposed to be on the highway at a certain place at a certain time because maybe you would have been in an accident if that flat tire didn't slow you down, or if you weren't, if you didn't lose the keys that morning, you'd be in a different place at a different time. You hear that with the stories of like 9/11, different people who didn't go to work that day, but they would have or should have, or same thing with the planes. It's really crazy. And it's not about blaming God for the people that were lost in a situation like that, but finding the gratitude and feeling like there was purpose. And again, I can't speak to every purpose. And I think that as a country and a world, we're probably wondering about this stuff right now. Like, why did the world stop turning in 2020? Why are we, locked up for 2 months? Why are people sick? Why are people dying? And we can look at it that way and we can stay sad about it or whatever. Or maybe like, okay, here's my working theory for the week. I saw a fella on TikTok talking about, he was breaking down the months of the year so far. Like January, he's like, the threat of World War I was on, or World War III. And then in February, maybe that's when Corona first started coming to town. And then killer hornets. And like he was acknowledging all these like bad things that have happened month by month. And I was like, the point was like, oh shit, what's going to happen for July? But reflecting back, if World War III, like if Corona didn't happen, let's say in February, March, and World War III was looming, maybe none of us are here right now. Maybe none of us exist, because if World War III happened with the way technology is and all the bad stuff, maybe we all blow each other up and we don't exist anymore. Or maybe God's plan was that Corona gets us sitting still and gets us united as a world where we're all counting on each other and communicating and just wishing, safety and health and survival for everybody, no matter who they are or whatever. Just like all this riots and Black Lives Matter. And it's so disturbing that this is still a thing, like as a country, we should be a lot further ahead than we are. And maybe this is the wake up sign that as a country, we need to do better. And you can see, there's something really bad happening, and there's a lot of hurt and anger and sadness and a lot of those kind of emotions. Hopefully they drive us to be a better community on the other side of it. Maybe it helps break down some of those barriers of not understanding each other. So there's definitely some, peace and comfort in believing that there's a plan for everything. So that's my thoughts for today, guys. All right. Well, it is Happy Monday. I have to go jump in front of my other computer and pretend like I work for a living. Well, I do work for a living, but anyway, have a super duper day. Super duper. How about that? Yeah, have a super duper day. And just trust a little that your day's going exactly how it should be going. See you tonight.